Hello guys, welcome back. This is a part 3 of Chevy Silverado Misfire case studies. Truck's been fixed. I've got the lifter from that cylinder. This is the intake side, one that was causing a problem. Truck's been fixed by the owner. He's pretty well mechanically inclined, so he did all the work. So I've got this lifter. I went to AutoZone and compared this lifter to known good ones, and this one is just maybe 1/8, maybe 1/16 of an inch shorter than it's supposed to be. And this plunger here, I can twist it. On the known good one in AutoZone, I was not able to do that. It was kind of locked in. So as we could see, this one is in pretty good shape. Actually, I don't see any traces of like sludge or anything like that, of baked oil. It's pretty nice and clean. The engine's been very well maintained, so that was not the reason why this failed. I'm not, So I've seen some images on Google and some videos on YouTube how these lifters are causing problems, and they're pretty much, this plunger is pretty much collapsed all the way to the bottom, and this spring is kind of squeezed in. So, and you can, that what causes then a rocker arm is just kind of very loose. That was not the case on this one. That's why we had for me it was kind of confusing to figure out what the problem was, because the cranking was okay, but during the running test, when we did a compression test on with the insular pressure transducer, we could see that we were losing the pressure. It was kind of confusing to me, but and of course in the part 1 I didn't even know there was a AFM engine until you guys kind of pointed me to the right direction. So the way this works, as I said, this is an AFM engine, active fuel management system, where computer is shutting down 4 cylinders on a V8 engine. On the driver's side, on the bank 2, it's controlling 2 cylinders in the middle, number 4 and number 6. On the bank 1, on the driver's side, it's controlling number 1 and number 7. So at a certain load, mostly around like 60 miles an hour, computer is gonna there's also a solenoid. Their computer is going to energize each cylinder has its own solenoid, and each valve, of course, has a special lifter. So exhaust and an intake valve on each cylinder has one of these lifters in. And as far as I know, they're both the same. They're all the same for exhaust and intake. So at certain load, the computer is going to energize the solenoids, and like underneath the intake manifold, there's kind of like a valve body where we have in automatic transmissions, where the oil is actually going to go through, and once the computer energizes the solenoid, the cylinder is going to open, the valve is going to open, so the oil pressure is going to be applied to these lifters, and what's going to happen, they're going to collapse on the intake and exhaust valve, and they're going to actually seal that cylinder and cut the computer is going to cut the fuel delivery to that cylinder. On some systems it's going to cut also the ignition as well. I'm not sure if that's the case on this Silverado truck, but anyway, and that's how it goes down to 4 cylinders, and I think that the longest time it can do it for like 10 minutes. After 10 minutes it's going to go back to 8 cylinders again, and the cycle repeats itself. It's all done at a certain speed and load. So, and I think that they say they're like fuel efficiency is like a 6% better fuel efficiency on a highway, which with all this stuff they have to put in, to me 6%, it's not that much of a improvement, but okay, I don't know, it is what it is. So essentially how this works, we have 2 pieces inside of this lifter, and so here's the lifter, here's the push rod, and there's a rocker arm, and of course we have a camshaft here. So as the camshaft moves, when the lifter moves over the camshaft lobe, there's a right there, and actually this looks good too. and it's gonna move the push rod, and the push rod is gonna open the valves by pushing on the rocker arm. And so that's when normally how it works. Now when computer decides to activate AFM system, what it's going to do, it's going to activate, it's going to energize a solenoid, and the oil is going to be applied to this lifter. And inside of this lifter, so we have a plunger. There's a spring, there's a plunger. Now the plunger itself is locked into this outer shell. Okay, it's locked in by two tabs, kind of like this. All right, has the two tabs. They're locked into the outer shell, and everything moves together. When the oil pressure is applied, these tabs going to collapse inward, and it's going to unlock this plunger, and it's going to drop down to the bottom of the lifter, and it's gonna shorten this lifter down so that this push rod, it's not going to travel as far to move the our rocker arm, and therefore it's going to close, it's going to shut down the valve. So it will be like this. So we have a plunger that's locked in, and then once the pressure is applied to it, this plunger is going to drop. These tabs is going to unlock, and this plunger is going to drop down to the bottom of the lifter, and the lifter itself is going to be shorter, and it's not the push rod. It's not going to push on the rocker arm anymore. So that's how it works. This will be kind of extended position of the lifter, and once the oil is applied, this plunger is going to drop down to the bottom of the lifter, and we have literally shorter lifter. We're going to have a spring here, which is this part here, and this spring is used to keep the tension on the rocker arm, I believe, on the rocker arm. So anyway, so would it fail in this? I don't know. So also, I forgot to mention on this AFM system, so the whole point of using this was to, to shut down the 4 cylinders. They can just shut down the fuel injectors, but that would, during the cruising, it would cause a misfire. So the way they got away with it is, once they activate this, that would be like right after the power stroke, when before the exhaust valves are open, they want to actually capture all that gases inside the cylinder. So they're gonna, at that point, so the computer is looking at the cam and crankshaft sensor signal, load and all that, cruising speed, whatever, and it's going to trap that gases inside the cylinder. So that gases is going to be like a spring inside the cylinder. So you don't feel that, you're not going to feel a misfire in the engine. So that's why all those cylinders are actually, all the valves that has to be in closed position, so you got those gases inside the cylinder, so you don't feel the misfire. So that's how all that works. So now what I want to do, I haven't touched anything yet. I want to put a little bit of pressure on this plunger, on this I want to squeeze it to see if it's going to collapse, because that's what was going on during the cranking. It was okay, but as you can see in part 2, right before I stopped cranking, maybe a second before that, we could see the rocker arm was stopped moving. So it did collapse somehow. So let me get the bigger. So I want to apply a little bit of pressure on this plunger to see if it's gonna collapse on me. No, it's locked in. Huh. That's weird. And I cannot. There you go. Now we did it. Oh. It did give up a little bit, so I don't know. So I think that's where the oil actually is applied through that solenoid right in here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take the grinder, I'm going to cut this open and see if we can find what was wrong with it. Alright. Okay guys, well I got everything apart and this is what we have. This part here is the outer shell or our lifter. So this goes like that. This goes like this, okay? At the bottom of it we have a roller. I'm going to have actually this part as the camshaft lobe, okay? So you're going to have a roller and we have a camshaft here, okay? This here's a washer. This washer actually keeps this spring on top of this outer shell so that it doesn't slide up and down. So this will be like this. So basically keeps this spring from sliding over. Okay. So that's the part of the outer shell. This is the outer shell part. Now the inside of it, the guts of this unit is, here's the plunger. This is the main plunger. It sits here. Now on top of this plunger we're going to have this little cone. Okay, this part is actually broken. I think I broke it as I was taking this apart. This part here is actually hooks up to this inner plunger. Okay, and they have a spring in the middle of it. Okay, so now this will be like this. So we got a cone, we have a spring, and then this is connected. This is connected together. So now when I went to AutoZone and when I looked at lifter, I could not move this part at all, and I think the reason is there's nothing to lock this in place other than spring being under more tension, and I guess this spring is a little loose, and that's how I could spin this part. Otherwise, you know, it stays. So the way it just sits like this, and see, it's nothing to, you know, just spins around. But the spring is in the middle of it, so it keeps everything tight. So I think that's one of the problems on this lifter, is this spring was a little loose. Okay, so now the inside of this piece, this is the one that does the business kind of. So in here we have these pieces, and this is just a regular hydraulic lifter. Okay, so this will go, the spring goes to the bottom, and you just push everything in, and this is a push rod seat. Okay, and that goes inside of it like that. Okay, so this is go actually a little bit deeper because there's a groove for this cone to be locked in. So this kind of, there you go. So now this is inside. Okay, and so let's just put this together like so. Now, as I said, this is the hydraulic lifter. We have a little hole here where the oil gets in, and that hole is right in here too. So we have this little groove where the oil goes in to get into this hydraulic lifter. So now this part here actually fits to the bottom of this plunger, and this is that locking device I was talking about before. The way this works is that these locking pins will lock into this groove inside of this outer shell. Okay, and so we will sit like in this position. So I'm gonna put this together. There you go. See, it's nice and flush. And then you have this spring goes in here, and this other end goes. It's kind of twisted. Now you can see these pins are pushed in. Okay, you can see that they kind of retract in and out, and that's basically the locking part of this unit, right there. So when everything works normally, this will fit into this groove. I cannot now because it's. Let's see, maybe I can do this. Okay, now you can see these pins are retracted and they are sitting, they are pushed up against this groove inside of this outer shell, and that's how this whole unit is locked in a place. Now we have a spring here. So now this is going to be our push rod. You can see inside here, and now we have a roller at the bottom, and then we have a camshaft lobe. So as camshaft lobe moves, of course, we're going to have this lifter move in and out, and if it gets to the point that needs the highest point to open up the valve, everything's going to move as one unit. Okay. Now, when the system is activated and PCM energized solenoid, then oil will be applied into this groove here through this hole, the bigger hole. Okay, and so what's going to happen? Sorry. So this spring inside of it, it's not that strong. So when that happens, these locking pins will collapse inside of this plunger. So I'm just going to take them out now. So imagine these, they will collapse, and what's going to happen now, this plunger is going to drop to the bottom of this outer shell. That makes it kind of shorter. The whole unit is going to be shorter now, and that's what happens when we go to so now we have our cam lobe, and at this point, when the push rod needs to actuate our rocker arm to open up the valve, due to the fact that this lifter now is shorter, it's not going to do it. Now, very important part of this unit is this spring here. Okay, so when the lobe moves, and now this whole system is going to get if you don't have this spring, if everything is collapsed like this, basically, as I said, so this is the normal operational length of this unit, and this is one that's when it's collapsed. So it's like half an inch or so. Now, if as the camshaft lobe moves, as the camshaft rotates, if this is collapsed to the bottom all the time, then we will have a play in between our push rod and the rocker arm, and it will rattle. So the very important part is actually this spring. When lobe is in this position, then this spring is actually going to push this back, even though these pins are still collapsed inward due to this oil pressure inside of it. This spring actually keeps everything tight, and it kind of works like this, just keeps moving in and out like so. So you're gonna have when the lobe is in this position, this unit is gonna be like that. When the lobe goes in this position, then we're gonna retract it again. So everything has to be tight, and this is the important part. This spring is that keep everything moving in and out, so it doesn't have any play in it. And now, what I've seen on YouTube and some on Google, how this lifter fails is you can actually see that this spring is completely compressed like that, and that this whole inner plunger is actually pushed to the bottom of it. And that's why I've seen some videos where people would take the rocker arm and it's pretty loose, because this whole thing is just collapsed to the bottom. The spring no longer works to push it back up. And also I think that, you know, oil just gets baked in it, and the sludge and all that, and just gets everything tight, and it just doesn't work anymore. It does not retract the way it should be. Now, when I forgot to mention, when computer de-energized the solenoid, then we are not going to have a oil pressure applied to these in this groove anymore. And then once we retract this unit again, once this spring retracts again, and these pins get to this position, they're just going to simply pop out, and it's going to lock the whole thing again, and it's going to work. You know, all of a sudden it's going to work again. So that's how it works. And so now, where did this unit fail? It could fail inside of this hydraulic part, where just this no longer holds the push rod. It could be a weakened spring. It could be maybe one of these. I see some these edges here a little bit rounded. So maybe that once we start the car, they simply just these tabs, these pins no longer keep everything locked in, and then this plunger drops to the bottom of the outer shell, and then it's just shortened up, and it doesn't actuate the rocker arm anymore. And something else I noticed it here is, so we got our roller, and it's kind of scratched up a little bit. And if you look at the bottom of this plunger, you can see these grooves. So right in here, you see that? And that's actually because it was touching roller, and that's where that comes from. So it seems like it just sorry about the light. So basically drops all the way to the bottom, and it keeps scraping up against our roller. Now this is the bearing out of this roller is gone. This is the shaft, and when I took everything apart, this just fall apart. But that doesn't matter. Something I'm not 100% sure, when the system is activated, and you know these locking pins are pushed in, and so this part basically goes to the bottom. Something has to keep this plunger from hitting this roller here. So it could be oil pressure, or maybe the spring itself that keeps it away from the roller. I think, you know, again, this is a very important part of this. So I think what failed on this one, it could be just a spring that's just no longer retract right. So I did notice it that in my case, when I compared this unit to one from AutoZone, it was just maybe 1/60 of an inch, a little shorter. So it was a little compressed. So it's kind of hard to tell, you know, where. I think it's just a spring that's lost its tension, and I think that's what the problem was. So, but anyway, that's how it works. Again, exact reason why this one failed, it's kind of still in the air. I'm not sure, but I think most likely seeing this on the plunger, I believe it would just drop. It would unlock itself, and it would just drop to the bottom, and that would be it. So, alright guys, I think this is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed that case study, and I want to thank everyone to helping me out, figuring what the problem was. And alright, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.